To start with
You can open it up. Yep.
with Augustine.
I don't know, actually. Okay.
Hello everybody and welcome to the God Talk guys. My name is Michael Mack. I'm the guy wearing the overly pale shirt. This is my friend Michael Koran wearing the, would you call that crimson? Orange. That's orange.
Yes, I think that's
wearing the orange
yes.
shirt.
Yes.
And you have tuned into God Talk. We're here on Cambridge Community Access Television every week at this time, 7 and 7:30. And every week we've got a bang-up show for you, and we've got just such a show for you tonight. We just don't know what it is yet. But we have at least something to start with. Michael has been reading St. Augustine.
There's Confessions, yes.
Confessions, which is St. Augustine's probably most famous work, most widely read, in which he talks about his conversion from, well, from what?
A lover of Plato.
Well, he was living, I think by his own definition, he was living kind of a profligate life, yeah?
Oh, afterwards not. Afterwards a philosophical life.
Right, before his conversion.
Well, profligate for him was unusual. He was married to someone or living with someone for 16 years and had a son with her and loved her very much. But she was not a Christian, I don't believe. And his mother wanted him to marry a Christian.
His mother, Saint Monica.
And he's like almost 40, and they wanted him to marry someone who's 16 and wait till she's 18.
That's how it was done back then.
And while he's waiting, then it's hard for him, and he wants someone else. He says, "Lord, make me chaste, but not yet."
But not too chaste.
Not yet.
Just yet.
And so he has trouble. He wants to live this life of spiritual goodness.
So this is even before his conversion?
This is before.
Because he has a very famous moment of conversion.
Yes, his moment of conversion is when he can't do this.
He can't do...
He can't be this spiritually loving person. We'll say that.
He can't do it by himself.
No, he can't do it himself. And then he realizes that Jesus can help him do this. And that Plato who talks about this realm.
Some would say, instead of using the word Jesus, some would use the term higher power.
Yes.
You know, some presence, some possibility, some, the mind reels trying to come up with the words, but something that's a part of ourselves but not a part of ourselves.
And that's the key part. When I'm listening to Augustine now, I mean, I loved Augustine in my 20s. I read him at the University of Chicago.
Yep.
It's one of the books for my master's degree. And loved it. And now when I'm listening to it again...
You're listening to it on audiobook?
Yes, on audiobooks. I didn't listen then. That would have helped, actually.
I'm going to put a jacket on.
These are my thoughts. I'm not claiming their truth, especially at this moment, but a couple of thoughts. One, as I was telling you, Eric Hoffer's The True Believer.
So, was that a book?
Yes, it's by a longshoreman.
By Eric Hoffer, who was a longshoreman?
Yep.
Okay.
So we can trust him. It's none of this academic stuff.
Right, okay.
Eric
so you can trust the Herald, but you can't trust the Globe. Is that what you're telling me?
So Eric Hoffer says, the thing I always remember him saying, he says, most of us hide from the nothing inside. And then he adds, it's so hard to hide from what isn't there.
Say that again, and help us to understand what that means to you.
Us meaning you, I guess, and the audience, yes?
Yeah,
Yep.
because I don't know what you mean.
Yes.
I don't know what you're talking about. So the first part I got. So it's hard to hide from the nothing inside.
Right, because we have, many of us can feel empty.
Yeah.
And
that's why we consume. All the things we consume.
Well, I could now, feeling somewhat shaken, I could, which I'm not doing, which I'm proud of me, try to fill my shakiness and emptiness with lots of brilliant words. Speaking quickly.
Is this the elephant in the room, your shakiness?
Well, can it be an elephant if I say it's here? Is that allowed? So
We can't just let that go. You're telling us how shaky you are, and it's like, we can drop it right now. We don't have to go on with this line of conversation.
No, I'm back to nothing though. I don't want to finish. I want to finish that because
Okay.
I didn't make it clear.
All right.
So we have this nothing inside, this
Yep.
shakiness or this emptiness,
Mm-hmm.
and even though I knew this quote for years, I would try to cover it with being witty, entertaining, brilliant, wise. You might have missed it, but that's what I was trying to do.
No, there were a couple of wise moments I caught. You might even have caught them on tape here.
So Eric Hoffa says he says it's so hard to hide from that. It's so hard to hide from what isn't there. So there's a nothingness, and I could hide from you easily, right? But I have trouble hiding from that feeling of nothingness inside. He said that's what's hard to hide from. And it could have a double meaning. It's so hard to hide from what isn't there, meaning it might have a double meaning I never thought of. It really is hard to hide from what isn't there. And maybe it's always, well, it's just interesting. It's hard to hide from what isn't there. And I would agree.
That what isn't there is a presence unto itself.
Is a very powerful. I mean, scientists might talk about dark energy, but just
Or the dark night of the soul. I mean,
Yep.
St. John of the Cross coining that term. That on the spiritual path, certainly in the Western, the Christian tradition,
Yeah.
there is this period of darkness, of emptiness, where all of the grace and light that we had experienced that led us to God suddenly seems to evaporate. And it might happen in little doses, or it might happen in one long...
Yes, or was it with one moment? So, or the Buddhists say that the Buddhists try to experience this nothing.
Eben Alexander, who wrote Proof of Heaven,
Yeah.
Neurosurgeon, Johns Hopkins neurosurgeon who died, who experienced brain death for about a week or so, and then came back from death with this phenomenal experience that he's been sharing for the last several years on all the big media, but about experiencing heaven, his experience of heaven. And as part of his experience, he got closer and closer and closer to God, to that source from which all things spring, which was both profoundly personal to him and personal to all creation, but was also very clearly not one of us, not created. And he described it as being a kind of living darkness, that it was total emptiness, it was total darkness, but there was a brightness about it. And again, he had to use these words that sound to us like contradictions. But that's so common, I think, in the mystical traditions, that when you start talking about the unspeakable, when you start talking about the unspeakable source of all things, that language kind of breaks down. But I just wanted to echo, to underline what you were saying about the emptiness or the darkness, and that actually we might be a lot closer than we think when we see that or recognize that or experience that in ourselves.
Well, here I am now, close, close to it. So I wanted Michael I can tell them, yes, I wanted to watch the show before that we did last week.
Sure.
And
Oh, why not?
yes,
Why not go ahead? There goes Augustine, right out the window.
well, it's connected to feel. Maybe it is going out the window.
Okay.
But I thought that when I was sitting and watching it, that there was something off.
So last week we did a show, and at the first half of the show I did a presentation.
Your show, yes.
Yes, my show, the 7:30 slot.
Yes, as mothers, and I was sitting and watching, and I think there's something not quite right about this, and I want to watch it with Michael, and maybe he'll see it too, and it'll be a great gift to you. So we watch it.
It was the presumption
Yes, it was
that I found so painful.
Yes. I'm not even sure I articulated that, did I?
You gave enough of an articulation. You were suggesting that there was a difference between the performance and when we were just talking.
Yes, yes.
And you were suggesting to me that there was something off about
Yes.
the performance, the presentation.
And so then to my humbling surprise, we did watch it because I insisted, because I thought it would be a great gift to Michael to see if this was off or not.
So we did watch it, but not before I threw a tantrum.
Not quite, but
I felt a tantrum,
I
whether
see,
or not I threw it.
Yes, and much to my happiness, but humbling, it was wonderful. And what I thought was off was not off. And so I'm recovering from my humbling. The word humiliation comes to mind. And so I who had many things I want. Now that I've shared this with you, maybe I can get back onto Augustine. Because that makes you...
So is that what you were reeling from? Is that what you were shaky about?
Well, I've had other.
Because you have some news today. Since this show is already out the window. But do you want to share your medical news, or
maybe not? Unless if you have a need to share it, you can. But
okay.
It's that part.
Well, maybe we'll do it for my show in another 15 minutes.
So, I think when listening to Augustine, that one of the other things Eric Hoffa said, beside hiding from the nothingness inside, and how hard it is to hide from what isn't there, and in the beautiful sense, as we're saying, what isn't there in the ordinary sense could be some dark beauty, really, as Buddhists say also, amazing beauty beyond what we've ever, which I think is true. Joseph Campbell said something different, if I can remember this. Something about the loneliness inside. And he said, in the place where we're most lonely, we can find the world.
You know, that echoes for me. What does this mean?
In the place where most lonely we can find the world?
No, this. What is this? Are you trying to tell me something?
No, I'm telling me something.
Oh, okay. What it echoes for me is how in the Christian tradition that it's in our brokenness that we find our strength. It's in our weakness that we find our strength. So again, it's seemingly contradictory, but many, and myself included, have found great truth in that.
And in the loneliness I find, my dance teacher Patrick often said this: what we are looking for, we already have.
I believe that that's so.
Oh, beyond our belief, yes. The love we have, the strength we have.
That everything that we've ever wanted, we already have. We just might not know it yet.
Or at least many of the things. We might want a friendship. But what Campbell was saying, which I think is true, in that lonely place, if we attempt, which I did in my life, to, scared of how lonely that is, to create around it a personality. And that personality is, a persona. Do you know what the word persona means? I just discovered. Etymologically.
Tell me.
Sound coming through. Sona and through.
Oh, cool.
And so.
Cool.
Then they used to wear these masks, and the sound of their voice would come through. And so persona means to us creating something artificial. which in some ways I did, but carefully, trying to be a good artificial person. But
Well, it's a constructed self.
yes, and underneath
An ego.
and underneath that, even the nice one, I tried to be I wanted
A
to
good
be
ego.
a good ego. Hi. But underneath that, scared, and especially if it would be revealed. And so Patrick and Joseph Campbell are saying, in that lonely place that's constructing this persona, we are really connected to the world, to each other, birds, the sky, the earth.
We're connected if we do not have the persona.
Yes, underneath
Yeah.
that, which
Yeah.
is scary, because when
Yeah.
you make the persona, then there's a gap
Yeah.
between,
You put up a front, you put up a wall.
and then between the wall and yourself, and between yourself and the emptiness inside, that beautiful source emptiness, there's a couple of walls.
I remember when I was younger that I would have these different persona that I would live for 2 or 3 years at a time.
Yes.
And one of them was after I bought my first motorcycles, a Yamaha 650. I'm I guess 19 years old, living in Anchorage, Alaska, and I bought a motorcycle, and this became my identity. I was a biker, and so I wanted to live in all ways the life of like the ideal biker. And so leather jacket, you bet. Boots, you bet.
And this can be done for real too, if it's
Well,
not.
it was for real.
Yes, it really is a real. Well, I still have, wow, we have 8 minutes, and now I'm eager to talk, now that I confessed.
Okay. Now that you confessed what? I didn't quite hear the confession.
Oh, good, I won't say it again. Although it's on tape.
We'll have to watch this again.
Oh, no, whatever you do, no! So Eric Hoffer said, well, we do have some understanding of him now as we're hiding from what isn't there, which could be very beautiful, creating a persona, and the gap between the persona and who we are can be scary if someone's going to crack it.
Years ago, I had a friend who was an American Sikh, and his teacher was telling him one time, I guess that comes out of the tradition, that when you die, you face 2 doors. And in one door, there's like light pouring through, and there is, the sound of beautiful music and all kinds, the scent of roses coming through one door, and the other door, it looks like a cellar. It just goes into the cellar. And the teacher told him, when you're faced with that decision, go to the cellar.
Wow, why? You don't ask why, you just listen?
I don't know. I don't have an answer. But my guess is because the cellar is where the darkness and the emptiness is.
Wow.
And once you see it for what it is.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Yeah.
Well, so Eric Hoffer also wrote a book called The True Believer.
Mm-hmm.
Those people who hold tight to one of the truths they find in the journey and think it is the truth. I like it when Jeshua says, I am the truth and the way.
The way and the truth and the life.
So the way, and he was wonderful enough to say, greater things will be done by my students than I have done. So he wasn't holding on to his truth as the end at all from those statements, but just walk with me on the way.
I had the experience many times in my younger life of, first of all, being, the unhappy, needy guy that I was as a teenager and a young man, constantly seeking an answer and stumbling across an answer every now and then. It's like, this is it.
Yes,
Finally, after seeking all my life, I have the answer.
Yes.
I believe.
Yes.
And I would just, for the next several days, I would like repeat it and repeat it over and over again. But after a while, it would start wearing off.
Yes.
And I would just try harder.
We need another one.
Push harder.
Or get the same one, yes.
But eventually, I had to give it up.
Eric Hoffer said that too. So I love Jeshua for saying that.
Jesus, yes.
For that it is a way. It is not, I don't have it. Because you can't have a way. A way is a journey. can say, I now have the journey.
That's fascinating. I never thought of it in that way. That he is the path. That
Yes.
Jesus is the
Well,
path.
at least one, or one of them. I am, there might be others.
No, but he's saying like he is the path itself. Like writ large, path with a capital P.
Let me just, okay, I am the truth and the way, and I am the truth and the I wonder if it's the in Greek. I'd love to check it out. I'd love it to be, I am a truth, a way, and a life. That's what I'd love. But anyway.
We would all love the scriptures to be written in our own language,
but anyway,
wouldn't we?
And him saying that greater things will be done by my students than I. He understands that as a good teacher, his students will do better. So I think that even the one God in the Hebrew tradition, which is really many, the word Elohim means gods as well as God, or judges.
Well, the single God was an innovation. Early in the prehistoric Jewish tradition, there were more than one.
Yes, Elohim, El Shaddai, even in Proverbs, which is much later. Chokhmah, who's wisdom, Chokhmah in Sophia in Greek, says, I was there at the beginning of the creation. I was with Yahweh. Wow, did we have a good time. Everything we did was great. It's like rewriting of it. But joining Sophia or Chokhmah is part of the creative source, if you like. And in the Christian tradition, Mary can join in, or certainly Joshua can. And so it seems to me, as part of this not holding on to the truth, that what we call God, which is an English word, in Hebrew Elohim is a plural, is a community that we can all join, like Joshua or Miriam, Mary, or all of us in the Hebrew tradition. We are the sons and daughters of God. And so, as Joshua used to say, the kingdom of God is among us.
That community that you're describing actually has a shape. And that shape is the cross. And by saying that, I am in no way pushing my own particular faith tradition.
Yeah.
But I just found myself meditating on the cross, the idea of the cross, which is the shape of a human being, but the idea that we are connected to the divine. We have the above and below,
Yes.
the divine coming through us, and then we share that connection laterally. We share that connection horizontally with our brothers and sisters and the other creatures in the world with us.
Now, what would you say? It seems to me the heart of Catholicism, from the very fringe that I'm on, if you even want to call it a fringe, but I
from the far distant reaches.
But I am baptized Catholic, so once baptized, I'm a member of the fold. Yes.
We've talked about this before.
Oh,
Were you
really?
Were you baptized?
For sure. You could look it up. Go to the University of Chicago.
So your name is on a baptismal sheet.
Yep.
Fine, you're in.
Yes. So it seems to me that the Catholics, with all the saints, and Joshua and Miriam, and the Father, but also for me, Sophia, Chokhmah, and so on, divinity is not one being. It's a community. And it's a dramatic community, like drama. And
They call that community the church, by the way.
And a dramatic community where there are difficulties, as you well know, and then you work through the difficulties. But it really is a dramatic community with no one having the truth, even, Yahweh or Joshua, all of them working to make a better way, to make a loving, free community.
We have 30 seconds. I would like to respond, and it will take me 27 minutes to respond. But that 27 minutes is coming right up, because we're going to be doing part 2 of the God Talk, guys, and that, I imagine, will just be one of many things that we will talk about, keeping you on the edge of your seats.
Thank you. Want to say a prayer in the last 10 seconds?
10 seconds, hit it.
Oh, I wanted.
Stay tuned. We'll be back in 3 minutes. God bless.
Oh, you're so good.
See you next time.
Well, not bad, considering I was...
Considering we had nothing?
Well, I had all of that. That was what I was thinking this